I don't usually believe in this kind of stuff, but I found something tonight that I can't explain. Hidden in an old box at a thrift store, there was a VHS tape with no label, just the words, "Watch alone." Curious, I brought it home, popped it in, and what I saw, it felt like it was meant for me. The footage shows a house out in the middle of nowhere, a storm raging, and a presence inside that doesn't seem human. The further it goes, the more I realized the house is alive. And if the whispers from the tape are anything to go by, it's not done with its next visitor. I watched it all the way through, and now I can't stop hearing things in my own house. So I'm sharing it here. Watch carefully, and maybe, just maybe, you'll notice what I didn't at first. This is the story of the forgotten house, and what I saw inside might be closer than you think.
I was driving home late at night when the rain began. Heavy drops battered the windshield and my wipers struggled to keep up. I should have stayed on the main road, but the GPS rerouted me down an old country lane. The trees loomed close, their branches scraping against the roof like bony fingers. Then, without warning, my car sputtered, coughed, and died. No cell signal, no houses for miles, except one. Through the sheets of rain, I saw a dark outline sitting back from the road. A house. Its windows were hollow sockets, yet faint light flickered behind one of them. Desperation drove me forward. My shoes sunk in the mud as I trudged up the broken path. The front door was ajar. It moaned open wider as I touched it, like it had been waiting. The smell inside was unbearable. Damp wood, mold, and something faintly metallic. I stepped into the foyer, where wallpaper peeled from the walls in strips, exposing splintered wood beneath. "Hello?" My voice echoed unnaturally, bouncing back at me distorted. Somewhere upstairs, floorboards creaked. Someone was here. I considered leaving, but lightning cracked, illuminating the hall. On the wall opposite me hung photographs, dozens of them. Families, smiling faces, children in tidy clothes. But every photograph had the eyes scratched out. Another creak upstairs, closer this time. I froze, my breath shallow. Then, from the top of the staircase, a figure appeared. Small, still, a child's silhouette against the faint glow of lightning through a broken window. "Are you lost?" I asked softly. The child didn't move, didn't answer. Instead, they tilted their head sharply like a puppet with its strings pulled too far. Then, without warning, they began to crawl down the stairs on all fours, fast, impossibly fast. I stumbled backward as the sound of nails scraping wood filled the house. The storm outside was deafening, but nothing drowned out the sound of that thing rushing toward me. I bolted back into the rain, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The child, or whatever it was, didn't follow me outside. I turned, expecting to see the doorway empty, but it wasn't. The figure stood there framed by the rotting wood, watching. Lightning illuminated its face, or rather the absence of one. Smooth skin stretched where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. I stumbled backward into the mud, breath fogging in the cold air. When the thunder rolled, the figure was gone. The door hung open, swaying slightly in the storm. Against every instinct, I went back in. Maybe it was madness, maybe it was shock, but something about the place pulled at me, whispering beneath the sound of the rain. Inside, the photographs had changed. The scratched-out eyes were gone, Instead, every face now stared directly at me. Their expressions were no longer joyful but grim, their smiles erased. The sound of dripping water led me deeper into the house, past the ruined living room, through a hallway where floorboards sagged beneath my weight. I found it, a heavy wooden door at the far end. A draft seeped through the cracks, carrying with it the smell of rust and damp earth. The basement. The handle was ice cold, and when I turned it, the hinges shrieked. Stairs descended into blackness. My flashlight, thankfully still in my bag, cast a narrow beam down. At the bottom, the walls were stone, slick with moisture. Old shelves lined the sides, filled with jars of cloudy liquid. Shapes floated inside, some small, some disturbingly large. Then I saw it. On the far wall, hundreds of photographs, like the ones upstairs, were pinned in crooked rows. But these weren't scratched out. Each one was recent, modern. People caught mid-step at gas stations, grocery stores, sidewalks, random strangers. And there, at the very center, was a new photograph. Me, standing outside the house in the rain, taken only minutes ago. Behind me, the basement door slammed shut.
The slam echoed through the basement like a gunshot. I lunged for the door, but the handle wouldn't budge. No matter how hard I pulled, it stayed locked, as if welded shut. The light of my flashlight flickered, and for a moment, I was left in darkness. Then came the whispers. At first, faint, like a breeze brushing against my ears. But they grew louder, overlapping voices speaking in tones too low to understand. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all murmuring at once. I spun the beam across the shelves. The jars trembled. Something inside them stirred, pressing against the glass like they wanted out. "Stop," I hissed to no one. The voices didn't stop. They focused. A single phrase rose above the chaos, repeated again and again until the sound drilled into my skull. "Join us." The photos on the wall rattled. One by one, they fell to the ground, leaving empty spaces. But when I bent down, the faces had changed. Every photo now showed me. Me, asleep. Me, walking. Me, eating. Moments I didn't remember being photographed. Then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. On the stairs. I swung the flashlight toward the sound. The faceless child stood halfway down, frozen. But this time, it wasn't alone. Behind it, more shapes crowded the stairs. Tall, short, hunched, crawling. Their outlines were human, but their heads twitched and jerked unnaturally like broken dolls. The whispers rose into a shriek. My ears rang, blood pounding in my skull. I dropped the flashlight, and in the second of darkness, I felt movement all around me. Cold hands brushed against my arms, my back, my neck. When I grabbed the light again and lifted it, the figures were gone. But the photographs weren't. They had returned to the wall, only now every picture showed me down here, in the basement, surrounded by pale silhouettes. The final photo was different. It showed me slumped on the ground, my throat cut open, and the shadows began to move again. The whispers didn't fade this time. They pressed against my skull, vibrating inside my bones. I clutched the flashlight like a weapon, sweeping its weak beam across the basement. Then I saw it. On the floor beneath the photographs. A symbol carved deep into the stone. circles interwoven with jagged lines soaked dark as if with old blood. My flashlight quivered in my hand, but the marks seemed to pulse, beating in rhythm with my heart. I stumbled backward, but my foot struck something. One of the jars had fallen, glass shattering across the stone. The liquid inside seeped across the floor, thick and oily. Something small and shriveled writhed in the mess, twitching as though it had just woken. The whispers changed pitch, rising with urgency. My skin burned. I looked down to see lines forming on my forearm, red welts that traced the same symbol from the floor. I tried to rub it off, scratch it away, but the mark only grew darker, etched deeper into my flesh. A scream cut through the noise, high, piercing, childlike. I whipped around. The faceless child stood inches from me now, its smooth head tilting as if studying me. It reached out one small hand and pressed its palm against my chest. Ice shot through me. My vision blurred. For a second, the basement dissolved. I was outside, standing in the rain again. The house loomed behind me, but this time the windows were filled with faces. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all watching me with blank expressions. Their lips moved, mouthing the same phrase, "You're already ours." Then, I was back in the basement, choking on air. The child was gone, but the photographs had shifted again. They no longer showed me alive. Every one of them depicted me marked, skin carved with the symbol, my face slack and empty. The whispers fell silent, replaced by a new sound, a slow, dragging shuffle on the stairs. Something far heavier than the child was coming down.
Every step on the stairs echoed like a hammer striking steel. I aimed the flashlight toward the sound, but the beam flickered weakly, barely slicing through the dark. Then it appeared. Not a child this time, nor a shadow. This was something else. Its body was hunched, grotesquely stretched, arms dragging across the steps, skin pale and sagging as though it had been stitched together from pieces. The head lolled to one side, jaw unhinged, mouth filled with rows of blackened teeth. It reached the basement floor and stopped, swaying slightly, its chest heaving. The mark on my arm burned so hot it felt like fire. The whispers returned, not outside me, but inside. They filled my thoughts, pushing aside my own voice until all that remained was theirs. Stay, stay, stay. I backed into the wall of photographs, glass crunching under my shoes. My hand brushed against one frame and I realized with horror that it wasn't a photograph at all. It was a mirror. Dozens of mirrors, each one clouded, warped, reflecting me differently in every frame. One showed me screaming, another silent, another with my eyes gone, another with the mark carved deeper into my chest. The creature moved closer, dragging its claws across the stone, sparks hissing with each scrape. The air grew colder, heavier, until it felt like drowning. Something inside me broke. I lunged for the basement door, slamming my fists against it until my skin split. The whispers rose to a roar, the creature's breath hot on my neck. And then, silence. The door swung open. I stumbled out into the rain, gasping. The house loomed behind me, still and quiet. My car headlights flickered in the distance. Somehow, impossibly, I was free. But when I looked down at my arm, The mark was still there, burning. In the reflection of the rain-soaked car window, I saw not my own face, but the smooth, blank skin of the child.